A while ago, a friend of mine was having trouble in his marriage. Going through difficult times and facing dire decisions, he had obviously been thinking a lot about what it meant to be in a relationship. To express how he felt, he did this diagram. What interests me of this example is the fact that while he was having those troubled times, my friend had the need to express what being in a relationship looked like. I would say he even wanted to see what his thought about being in a relationship would look. So he did this drawing, but he didn't just do a diagram. He drew his thought. Drawing is thinking, and to think is to diagram. To think is to diagram. Now, this has tremendous implications, and to understand the implications it has, we really need to understand that the world is not as it is, as we see it. The world is as we think of it. Consider this. Is this a pen? Well, many of you might think it is, but it's actually not. It's just a piece of plastic with some ink inside, or an illustration on a screen, or a toothpick, or a rocket, or a spoon to stir my tea. At this point, I am not seeing a pen anymore. I am seeing a spoon, because that's how I'm thinking of it. Thinking has the power to generate the narratives we live in. How we see our life is the life we will have. Thinking generates the cultures that mold the world. Diagrams can help us understand how we think. They can help us see how we think, and they might even help us choose what we want to think. That is the tremendous power of diagrams, and in order to unlock it, we need to understand why and how diagrams are thoughts. So let's take a little journey, and let's start with the body. As it turns out, our body is our mind. Cognitive science has afforded us the idea of the embodied mind. It teaches us that our whole body is a cognitive and thinking system that includes not only our brain, but also our limbs and our nervous system going within them, or our senses, etc. This destroys this dualistic vision of the brain cut off from the body, and it helps us understand that our thinking depends on the very nature of our body-mind. Our body thinks, and our body remembers. Proprioception is the quality that explains this. It is the reason all of you in this room know instinctively that you are wearing your shoes, even though you don't have to think about it, right? You are wearing shoes, I hope. It is the reason why you can jump onto a bicycle and know how to ride it without having to remember. Information obtained from proprioception is then reused in other more abstract tasks. Another interesting idea is that of the extended mind. Andy Clark and David Chalmers bring this crazy but amazing example. Otto has Alzheimer's, and he wants to go down to the local market to buy some groceries. But he knows that by the time he gets there, he will have forgotten what his groceries are. So he writes down the list of what he wants to buy in his notebook. And he goes down to the market, and sure enough, by the time he gets there, he has completely forgotten what he wanted to buy. This information has been erased. He has Alzheimer's. He doesn't have it in his system anymore, unless he takes out his notebook and remembers. At which point, it's fair to ask, where is Otto's mind? And is the notebook a part of it? This shows how our mind throws thoughts into the world, onto external surfaces, to help it think, to help it liberate precious cognitive space. When we draw, we free space to remember. We free space to get perspective and think about our thoughts. We free space to generate more complex thinking. When we draw, we transcend the limitations of our body and extend our thoughts onto the world. Another huge idea is space. Diagrams use space the same way our body uses space to interact with the world. from our experiences of the world, we generate a spatial comprehension of the world that is natural to us. Diagrams emerge from the spatial concept that comes from the body. Our thinking is spatial in nature. And its structure is built upon spatial sets of relations. The space and geometry are really even in our whole bodies, in all the space that we use around. From our experiences, we know of such concepts as up or down, big or small, warm or cold. These basic concepts then are used for more abstract and complex thoughts. These are made through some really beautiful idea. It's called the metaphors of the body. How they are explained to us by George Lakoff and Marc Johnson. And these are a couple. There is up and there is down because there's a ground and there is gravity. Pretty obvious. But from that basic thought, we then generate metaphors. Metaphors such as up is good, down is bad, up is happy, down is sad. Up is alive, down is dead. Up is more, down is less. A recent survey asked across countries this question: if these two circles were people, which would be the richest? Yeah, you are right. We are all thinking diagrammatically. Another, from our knowledge of the body, we then also have a concept of in or out, naturally. From this in and out concept, we generate a center-periphery metaphor. That same survey asked, if these 5 circles were a rock band, who would be the singer in the band? Is it in the center? Metaphors of the body are the basis of language. They're in all our languages. They're in the words we speak, they're in the math we make, and they most certainly are in the diagrams that we do. I would like to share now 5 diagrams that I absolutely love, and their intrinsic powers and qualities. This is a mathematical equation. It shows a system with a set of relations. I'm sure all of you know what it means. This is the same equation in its diagrammatical form. Now, it is called a Pulley's system of relations. The mathematical version of the equation and the diagrammatical version of the equation give us the same information. This means they are informationally equal, but the diagram is computationally better. Why? Because of our instinctive knowledge of up and down and gravity, we can easily operate on the visual form of the equation. Imagine you need to catch your 10:18 train, and you're late, and you're getting to the station, and you're facing this panel for departure times. In the first panel, there's a set of times that is organized in no special way. On the second panel, there's a set of times that is organized in a chronological order. In the third panel, there is a set of times that is organized in a chronological order with a line break every other hour. It's obvious that the last panel is the one that will help you catch the 10:18 train. And this is because of the arrangement of the elements in space, which is in itself extra information. This is not design or typography or decoration. This is actual information. It's diagrammatic knowledge. Great minds from all sorts of fields and all different times have afforded us with amazing diagrams, like that one of mathematician John Venn. And this has really been kind of them, because it means we get to play within these diagrams without having the slightest clue of the math behind them. I, for one, don't know the math behind this one. But it means we get to play around and see what the blend between Kim Kardashian and George Michael might look like. Or what happens when you put pineapple into pizza, which is heresy. Or what would happen if we gave steroids to the green Teletubby? When this happens, we are thinking within the diagram, and in our mind, we lose sight of the structure of the diagram. We are having what Charles Sanders Peirce called an imaginary moment. It's the moment when our thoughts and the diagram are the same thing upon which we operate. It's the closest I can get to prove that diagrams are thinking. Diagrams can give us meaning. Big data is useless, unless it's meaningful. The value is not in the information itself, but in the intelligence and the knowledge that we can get from the meaning that we make from the raw numbers. This diagram shows average earnings for the same jobs, comparing them between those of men and women. But it's only when we draw the line of equal pay that we see who is getting paid better. And it's only when we see the 25% difference gap that we could see the pattern that's emerging. This is meaningful information. It's as meaningful as instantly knowing the difference between the slow and decreasing growth of logarithmic growth from the strong and energetic acceleration growth of exponential growth. I would like to show you one last example. This is one of the most culturally strong diagrams I know. It is Abraham Maslow's pyramid of human needs. In his theory, Maslow proposes that humans have a series of needs and that they are organized in a hierarchical way from bottom to top. This means that you will not have the next need if you haven't fulfilled the previous want. In other words, you won't feel the need for love if you're hungry. But this really has shaped how we think. This is the world we have built. It has been argued that this same diagram provides conceptual basis for a view of society that is class divided, one in which people struggling with the needs at the bottom of the pyramid are of a lesser class than those dealing with the needs at the top. But what if we could see the world differently? What if we could change this sight and this construction of the world? What if we could see it in a circle? Manfred Max Neef has provided the human scale development theory, and he argues there is no hierarchy amongst needs, and that they are complementary and simultaneous, and that there's a system of trade-offs in the process of need satisfaction. This is a fundamental change in how we see ourselves. It is a disruption in society, in how we can build it. It will change how I'll treat my next-door neighbor. And the difference is not in the theory, it's in the diagram. It's the difference between a circle and a triangle. Diagrams have been around for a while, in fact, for as long as we can think. But for some reason, they have been kept circumscribed to technical circles and belong only to economists and marketeers, academics or professionals. But as all the examples I've shown demonstrate, diagrams can help us in all sorts of problems, big and small, in our daily life. Why don't we use this language more? And what could we achieve if we had a diagrammatically educated society? I'm sure my friend will fall in love again. And when he gets into those first dates with his heart pumping with acceleration and love, he might just remember that little drawing he did way back when. And maybe that will help him work out what he expects of a relationship and his new partner. It is no promise that the relationship will last, but I wager that with a good insight, it's a better start. This language is easy to learn. It's in our bodies. It comes naturally, and it works for everybody, across cultures. It can help us build the world we want to see. I say we claim this power. I say we teach it to children, we put it in schools and in households. It is the power to see the world differently. It is the power to draw our ideas. It is the power to think through our scribbles. Let us use it. Thank you.